If you've been an active My Chemical Romance fan for the past few months, you've likely heard the name Illi Mcmillin being tossed around. And if you've wondered, who is this character that everyone suddenly seems so enamored with? Well, they don't exist. They're not real. But they've been made very real through the collective effort and love of the fans, and I think that earns discussion. Illy today has fan art, edits, cosplays, fan merch, and even physical comic books. She's even made her way into the Oshikatsu and Yume shipping communities. It is clear, almost a year later, that Illi Mcmillin is here to stay. But before we get into all of the reasons why I think Illi Mcmillin and the mark she has left upon the MCR fandom is important, let's back it up and start at the beginning. Who is Illy and how did this even happen in the first place? Short answer, it was all a big misunderstanding. Long answer, the day is April 11th, 2025. My Chemical Romance had surprise dropped a 4K restored version of the I'm Not Okay music video, which had arguably been one of their lowest quality music videos in terms of resolution. So this was understandably very exciting to fans. There was a lot of details about the music video that had previously not been noticeable due to just how low quality the video had been. So lots of people on Twitter and Tumblr were dissecting the video frame by frame and just having fun sharing details that they noticed. One of these details was a name on the graded paper returned to Gerard's character, and that name was, as you probably guessed it, Illi Mcmillin. This name appeared again on the cassette tape that Mikey plays, kind of reinforcing the fact that it was not a coincidence, right? Now, it may sound like a jump for fans to automatically assume that this was an intentional detail, but truly it is more uncommon for Gerard Way to not be in character than it is for him to be in character, whether it be Party Poison, the Parader, whoever this guy is. Even if the characters go unnamed, he's basically always acting. This is kind of just how music videos work, but we all know My Chemical Romance loves their lore, they love their world building, they love their characters. We know the premise of the I'm Not Okay music video is that it's a fake coming-of-age movie trailer, so they are playing characters. Gerard Way is not a croquet-playing private school student, Mikey Way is not asthmatic, etc., etc. So it really wasn't all that crazy for people to assume that this was an intentional canonical naming of Gerard's character. And it is for this reason that Illi Mcmillin immediately had the community in a chokehold. Suddenly we had a main character and there was now a more tangible world to piece together. It was also at this point that a majority of fans came to the agreement that Illy is a girl, I think mostly for the reason that Illy is a mostly feminine name. Gerard has played characters who are women before. This too was not that big of a reach in the grand scheme of things. The fandom very quickly became enamored with this character. We were all feeling very maternal about this teenage girl that we thought Gerard Way was communicating telepathically with us. He was not. What actually happened is that Illy is the artist signature of costume and prop designer Huion Mcmillin. His Instagram was found, I'm assuming, by someone just looking for Illy fan art, and stumbled upon his page and went, oh hey, I think that's our guy. And while he didn't have any proof on his page that he has worked with My Chemical Romance, he did have other work signed as Illy that looked pretty identical to the writing on the I'm Not Okay props. We had for sure found our guy. So that's it, party's over, right? Incorrect. We were understandably sad at first. We had spent days fleshing out this character and world because we thought that Gerard had been intentionally laying crumbs for us. This was arguably the most fun the community had had in a long time, as this took place right before the tour started. And it was definitely the first time in a long time that the sub-Twitter specifically had been getting along and being wholesome. We were proud of what we had all created together, so obviously we were disappointed. But after that initial disappointment, instead of moving on and fading into obscurity, the fandom simply decided to adopt Illi Mcmillin as a community-owned OC. She kind of became like the My Chemical Romance fandom's Hatsune Miku. Everybody's got their own version of her. People trade headcanons and everyone loves her very dearly. Because at this point we were too attached and had put too much effort into this world to just toss it aside. Even if it wasn't canon, we had all still made something real as a group. Now, people who had hated the Illi Mcmillin craze argued that because we now knew that they were not canon, that we had to stop, because it was somehow disrespectful to Gerard. I disagree with any take that implies Gerard would take offense to Illi Mcmillin. He'd probably just be like, wow, the kids are so creative, and move on with his day. The I'm Not Okay universe technically predates Illi Mcmillin. These guys have always been interpreted as their own characters by fans, because again, they are acting for a concept. However, suddenly when there was a name tied to it, people started viewing it as controversial. I think this is largely due to the fact that Illy is most commonly portrayed as a girl, particularly a trans girl. I think people mistook the idea of Illy being a trans girl as people implying that Gerard is a trans woman, which is not true and not at all what people were doing. Again, they are not the characters that they play. Party Poison is not canonically non-binary, but is also commonly interpreted as such by fans that it is mistook as canon. Gerard has always been cool with this. He said it wasn't his intention with the character, but thought it was interesting and asked to hear fans' input on why they interpreted it that way. I truly believe he'd respond the same way to Illi Mcmillin. He has always said he just wants his fans to express their creativity and has always seemed to be proud of being a source of inspo within reason. Obviously, I'd gladly retract this and eat my words if he personally came out and was like, nah, that Illi Mcmillin stuff makes me really uncomfortable. But we're working off of assumptions here, and I find it very hard to believe that a person who has opened his heart many times about gender and relating to trans women, and being glad that he can be a source of comfort and relatability for trans fans, would take offense to fans creating a trans character inspired off of him as a vessel to tell their own stories. And I find it even harder to believe that Gerard would take offense to a character with his likeness being portrayed as a woman, period. It is disrespectful to claim that Gerard Way himself is a trans woman when he is not. Their gender identity is unlabeled and it should be left at that. But acting like that's the same thing as a character inspired by him being trans is, in my opinion, rather silly. Another point that's usually made against Illy is that it's rude to use William's name. While I disagree with the idea that it's automatically disrespectful to use the name of someone else for a character, I do want to talk about how this could potentially be a slippery slope. This is a prime example of how Fanon and the people who inspired it need to be kept separate. Under no circumstances should William be dragged into this. He should not be bothered in DMs or comments about Illi Mcmillin or anything like that. But to my knowledge, fans have been good about this and left him alone. He has not publicly said anything about Illy, so he likely doesn't even know, and it should be left at that. If anything, there may be more eyes on his art now, which is a net positive, but yes, keep our fun within our bubble and do not drag him into it. I want to talk about the dreaded topic of Illi Mcmillin characterization. Now, I'm gonna make this section fairly brief because, as I said before, Illy is like the MCR's Miku. I firmly believe that Illy's characterization should be up to the individual writing her at the moment. I think it's much more creatively fulfilling for everyone to kind of have their own Illy rather than fighting to establish a collective canon. Now, much like Miku, this does not mean that I agree with all of the portrayals of Illy because I am my own person, but that's not something I'm really going to dig into because it's unnecessary. Times where I've attempted to do this, I've been accused of attacking specific creators when in reality I didn't even know who these people were, and I had just been being broad. But it does raise the fair point that we are a small community, as in the Illi Mcmillin creators. Most Illy artists know of each other, and so detailed discussions like this can feel targeted, and that's never going to be my intention. I want people to draw and write Illy however they want because the existence of Illy art at all is way more important to me than if I personally agree with the headcanon. I bring this up because there are a few traits I do want to talk about because, again, this is my Illy video and the traits tie into why I think Illy is important. But let it be known that just because I think these things are inherent or important to Illy does not mean that I think you should change your Illy if you disagree. Keep doing what you're doing, both ideas can coexist. While scarce, there is canon. Illy goes to a private prep school called St. Matthew's. She likes D&D, Audrey Hepburn, Fangoria, Harry Houdini, and croquet. She can't swim, she can't dance, and she doesn't know karate. Her and her friends are the quintessential, weird, outcasted, bullied problem students. The whole point of this fictional movie that MCR made up being that they are fighting back against the students who have been tormenting them and they are angry. After canon, there are some things that most people agree on, and due to the fact that this whole concept is largely MCR self-insert LARPing, like most of their career, and that Illy is played by Gerard, most of these traits are typically inspired off of Gerard. She's an artist, she has really weird interests, she's kind, she's a yapper, she's messy and kinda gross, she's awkward as hell, so on and so forth, just a total loser, right? And I've come to the realization that not only are these traits that fans really love and adore in Gerard, but are also typically traits that MCR fans see in themselves. This is probably a large part of where Illy's queerness comes from, as another trait that seems very important to Illy is an inherent but oftentimes unspecified queerness. I'm about to go on what's going to sound like a massive tangent, but I promise it is necessary to illustrate the point I will be making. Queer, particularly trans My Chemical Romance fans have always seen themselves in Gerard. This is something he has not only acknowledged but also stated means a lot to him. Gerard Way has carved out a safe space for queer fans in the rock scene, and in turn those queer fans consider him to be one of us. Gerard's queerness is undefined, it always has been and it likely always will be, but being queer is much more than a label or a definition of a sexuality or gender identity. It is a lived experience that shapes how you live or view the world in many ways, a lived experience that we have seen proof time and time again that Gerard has lived. Now obviously, and Gerard has talked about this himself, Gerard is not going to experience life in the same way as an out trans person or an openly gay person. But that's not what's important here. What's important is the mutual understanding there, the mutual understanding between Gerard and the fans.
Yeah, the only thing that really bums me out is that I'll probably never get to wear this again.
Obviously, we will never know him personally, and I think demanding more explanation or proof from him to earn a community spot is a disservice to the life he has lived and all he has been willing to share with us. Someone born in the late 70s is going to label their experience differently than someone born in the 2000s or 2010s. And believe it or not, this is where Illi Mcmillin comes back in. Illy's character, at its core, simply combines Gerard's experiences with the fans. Illy having an inherent but unspecified queerness to their character not only represents Gerard's experience, but allows for fans to relate to Illy across many identities, and then use Illy to tell their own stories. Same with the general idea of Illy being the weird outcast kid. Everything I said about queerness can be applied to mental health or just being a fucking nerd. MCR fans, especially teenage ones, love these traits in Gerard, but typically have to learn to love them in themselves. So it makes complete sense that Gerard specifically is the starting point of this character. I asked you guys over on Instagram if you had anything you'd like to add about what Illy meant to you, and the response basically echoed everything I have said so far. People see themselves in Illy and it helps them accept those things. Responses ranged from people discovering their identities through Illy, finding the motivation to go back to and finish high school, or feeling seen in a teenage girl character who isn't bothered by being weird or gross, or a trans character who isn't pressured to commit to gender stereotypes. And yeah, this is basically what My Chemical Romance has always been about, but it manifests in Illy in a way that allows for a hands-on experience for the fans. If the whole point of I'm Not Okay, the song, is to be all like, hey, everything fucking sucks, but it will be okay, then the existence of Illy is fans in turn being all like, yeah, it will be okay, by creating stories where they nurture Illy through hardships until she is able to be happy. Illi Mcmillin and the fan work she features in are a love letter, not only to Gerard and My Chemical Romance, but to ourselves as well, and I think that's a pretty cool evolution for something that birthed from a misunderstanding about the re-release of a music video from 20 years ago. If you guys have made it this far, thank you so much. This video was a long time in the making, like months in the making, and it was a collective effort of many people, so thank you for all of the artists and creators who I have featured in this video. They will be tagged below. If you are here and you are interested, I do now have Illi Mcmillin Valentine merch up on my ACG Goods. You can get her in a keychain, an acrylic standee, or a thick acrylic standee. This is my first run with doing Illy merch, but I will do more in the future. Thank you very much to my Ko-fi members, Ray, Wish You Away, and Poison Girl. As always, all my socials and any other relevant links will be in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys later.